Well, in the immortal words of Kenny Loggins, this is it. This is the last of my 5-gallon batch of Skeeter Pete, also known as lemonade wine, also known as magic in a jar. And guess what? Summer is right around the corner, so we're going to get busy making a new batch. So come with me and I'll show you how. So this delightful, refreshing lemon-flavored beverage can be made super easily with limited ingredients and equipment. It comes in right around 10% ABV. But because of how it's made, you actually have the ability to control all of the aspects of the finished product, including the carbonation, the lemon flavor, the tartness, and even the alcohol level. Okay, here it is. This is all the ingredients you will need to produce 5 gallons of the most wonderful, sparkling lemon wine that you've ever had in your entire life. So obviously we start with the hero of the story, and that is our lemon juice. 100% lemon juice, can be from concentrate, preferably no preservatives, but I find that even if it does have preservatives, it will work just fine if you can't find it. It is more difficult to find. Obviously, a lot of sugar. That yeast is going to need some nutrient to offset some of that acidity in the lemon juice to be successful, and this recipe calls for up to 10 pounds. So this is a 10-pound bag of sugar. We'll use most of it. The last little bit is sweetened to taste, so it's also a matter of your preference. Next, we have simple wine tannin. Again, that's probably available from a local brew supply store or certainly online through any number of resources. I use Northern Brewer as my brew supplies store. Next, we've got the yeast nutrient. We'll use a couple teaspoons of that, but that's usually you can get it in a 1-ounce size. It's about as small as it comes. And then we'll use, the next is the yeast energizer. And that's really to, again, both the nutrient and the energizer are to help that yeast be successful in a highly acidic environment. Okay, so let's take a look at the equipment that you're gonna need. Starting from the left, we've got a secondary fermentation vessel, also known as a carboy. On that carboy, I do have a heating element, so if you have trouble maintaining temperature for the space where you're going to be doing your fermentation, so if it's in your basement and it's cold, this will help you maintain the right temperature range. A hydrometer, so that you can measure the original gravity of the product and then gravity as it ferments to make sure that it is in fact fermenting and that you're getting closer to your target alcohol percentage. This here is going to be our primary fermentation, so this is where we're going to start with our must and start the fermentation process. This recipe calls for a lot of racking, so moving from one vessel to another. So it's pretty critical to have access to 2 different vessels for that. The pot, so this pot just needs to be big enough to do your invert sugar, where we mix the sugar and water together with a little bit of lemon juice. This pot is as big as you need. The wire whisk is here so that we can whip air into the must at different points in the process, because for the yeast to be successful, we need to give it a lot of oxygen through aeration, and that's the best way that I have to do it. And obviously a spoon for mixing when we make the invert sugar to make sure all that sugar gets dissolved. And then lastly, a thermometer, right? Because you need to make sure that when you're doing your invert sugar, you're meeting temperature, and obviously, more importantly, when you pitch your yeast, that the must you're pitching to is the right temperature, not too hot. So it's day 14, so that's our next step in the process following the recipe. We want to make sure we've got a couple things going on. First and foremost, the heat belt, they're keeping the temperature around 80 to 85 degrees, which is ideal for this yeast. This yeast is super happy. We know that because the airlock keeps bubbling day in and day out. It just keeps piping away. So that's good news. But what we need to do is get some data points around this. We're going to pull a sample. We're going to test it, see if it's about 1.05, and then we've got some more steps we'll take after that. Okay, so here we are. It's time to sample the must. Make sure that you've got your sampling device sanitized. I use just a home use ladle, stainless steel ladle. I sanitize using either a chlorine, just a home bleach mix, or I use Star San. If you're using Star San, make sure you follow the directions on the label and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to pop the lid on this guy, pull a couple ladles full, and then we'll test it on the hydrometer. Oh, it looks good and it smells good. Okay, we've got our sample. Let's test it in the hydrometer. Okay, it looks like we're at 1030, which is even below where we wanted to be, which is great. But we're going to take the next step. Okay, guys, I'm stoked because we're well below our target of 1050. We're coming at a 1030, which means we're going to take some steps. We've got to add our yeast energizer and yeast nutrient, and we're going to add our last bottle of lemon juice. Okay, so we're going to add our ingredients and we're going to give it a good strong whip. Again, with a sanitized piece of equipment, we're going to use our large paddle. So we've got our energizer and yeast nutrient going in. And we got our last bottle of lemon juice going in. In this step, it's okay. If you're adding air when you're dumping ingredients in there, it's fine. The more air you put in, the better this is gonna be. The more air is gonna get to that yeast, and the more active it's gonna be. So we're gonna give it a good whip with the paddle, see how it's sudsing up. That's a good sign. That means that yeast is super excited, ready for some more nutrient, ready for some more energizer, and it's gonna go like gangbusters. Okay. Day 16. So on day 16, we did check our specific gravity. It's still going down. That thing's been bubbling away. So we're at 1.010, headed towards 1 or less. So today, all we're gonna do is we're gonna rack into a clean, sanitized carboy. So we're gonna take it out of original fermentation and put it to the second. All I did is pull out the airlock and then flip the switch and let her rip. Okay, so day 50, all we have left to do is put it in our final bottle or keg. You can use beer bottles with a capper. You can use a swing top bottle. You can use a jar. You can use old wine bottles. Whatever you have at your disposal, whatever you can get relatively cheaply, go ahead and use that. It's going to be fine no matter what. I keg mine because I keep it on tap. So all I have left to do today is empty the final carboy into this sanitized keg, and we're good to go. There it is, guys. In less than 60 days, it's the best lemonade wine you're going to have. It's delicious. Your friends are going to enjoy it. Your family's going to enjoy it. Check out the recipe down below. Cheers.